Now we're going to look at the WBlock command. It's very similar to the block command. What the W stands for is write, W-R-I-T-E. What we're really doing is we're creating a block on screen, but we're also writing what we've selected to a totally different file and a totally different location, so we can then use it later on. It's not available on the block panel. You have create, but that's just a regular block. That's not a WBlock. So excuse me. So if you go to the insert tab, you'll see right here you can drop this down and you have both. And you have create block and write block. And the create block is what we've already done previously in the block command. And this is the write block. And again, very similar. I'm just going to go through the steps because it's pretty much identical to the block, except the dialog box has changed a little bit, and it acts a little differently. So if you select write block or just type in WBlock, either one, you'll get this dialog. A little bit different, but some of the same steps. The source is just saying, okay, where do I want to pull my items from that I'm going to create this block out of? Well, most of the time it's objects, and that's why that's the default. I could select the entire drawing and say, okay, everything in this drawing file I want to create a block of. Or I could actually choose a block that already exists. Okay, most of the time objects is where you're going to end up. And if you use objects, it's the same steps. I have to choose a base point. In other words, my insertion point or my grip that I'm going to use to move it later on. So I'll choose that, and we're going to pick the same one we did for our block command video. Top left-hand corner of the table. And then objects, same thing. I have to select the objects I want to include in my block. So I hit the button, select all of my objects, hit enter, right click. And then this option, convert to block, most of the time that's the default option that's selected for you. And what that does again is takes all these objects and converts it to a block right here on your screen. Okay, retain would mean that there's still going to remain all these little bitty pieces of lines and everything once you're done. So convert to block is pretty much what you want, or if you want to delete it, you can. You can see we have 273 objects selected. Now down here on the block dialog box, it just asks us to name it. So we named it table and chairs before. Here it's asking us to actually save it. It gives us a path, file name, and everything. So what we would do, click this button here, that opens up our browse menu, and we would find where we wanted to save this. That's totally up to you. You can name it, put it in any different place you want to. I'm going to create a new folder on my desktop. I'm going to rename it blocks. So now I have a folder on my desktop named blocks. So I'm going to double click, make sure I'm in that folder. I'm going to name this drawing or this block table and chairs. And you can see it's actually a DWG file. So what I'm doing is I've picked my base point right here. I've selected my objects, which is everything on screen right there. I'm going to convert it to a block when I'm done, so this will become a block on my screen. And I'm also saving it to this location with this file name. So I'd hit save, and now that's what shows up here. So I'm going to my desktop, blocks folder, table and chairs drawing. Okay, so now when I hit OK, it goes through the process, and now it has converted this to a block. It is a block. But if I go to my desktop and I look in my blocks folder I created, I have a drawing in that folder called table and chairs. So what it's done is it's taken just what I selected, written it to this file called table and chairs. So that's all that's in that file, just what I selected. There's a whole new drawing file. Okay, but it saved it in this location because that's where I told it to. So now the beauty of that is if I have a new drawing, let's say I started a brand new drawing, I'm starting to do some sort of layout for a home or a business or whatever, and I decided, you know what, that table and chairs that I used in that previous project, that sure would work real well right here. So then what I could do is come up here to the Insert tab, go to the Insert button, and where it says Name, I could browse, go to my desktop, go to my folder where I know I save all my blocks, select that Table and Chairs drawing, open it. It's going to tell me I've opened up the Table and Chairs. It's going to tell me where it's saved. The insertion point, I can specify where I want it on screen. The scale is going to be automatically 1:1, or I can specify that on screen, or I can rotate it. Okay. I can actually choose to explode it. As soon as I locate it in the drawing, it will explode it into a lot of different pieces. Generally, that's not what you want. So all you really have to do is choose the item you want, the drawing you want, hit OK. It's going to ask you where you want it, and you can see the insertion point is the top left-hand corner of the table because that's the base point I chose. So as soon as I click, I now have my table and chairs in my new drawing. And it's just that easy, and you can do that with any drawing file. But again, that's all done with the WBlock command. It creates a block on screen, but also saves all of those elements to a different file location and name, so that I can then use the Insert button to use those anytime I want in any drawing that I want.